I guess that's the only one I'm gonna have to have, so I can't find another one. I'm ready to go. Sorry.
Hinháŋni wašté. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live with Chas Jewett. Yay! We
Good
have Chaz
morning.
again.
I'm very colorful this morning. Hi everyone. How's it going? How's it going? A big week, huh?
A big week. A big week. I mean, it always happens to me. So this is what happened. So last Friday, I I don't know, I twisted this part of my foot. I twisted that. So I'm hop along now.
Oh, you're on crutches? Oh no.
No, I'm not on crutches, but I'm pretty wounded. My foot is, and
Mm.
I have some family that they have the last name Wounded Foot, so I'm joining them. Maggie Wounded Foot. That's gonna be me.
Well, hopefully you get better before the snow and wind comes, because it's coming. It's gonna be a crazy winter, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I hope everyone's getting their trailers weatherized and starting to do that. I gotta do that now that I have some time to think. So
Yeah, I've been saying that for some time on Toksa Hour, like we need to start preparing, start getting ready because winter's coming, and they're predicting. Um, I don't think they're predicting a lot of snow, but they're predicting the like cold weather.
Mhm. Mhm. And yeah, they are. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't had any yet. Like it feels like here it is already. What the 15th, 16th, 17th. What day is it? Man, this has been a crazy week. It's all blurred together.
It's the 16th. Yeah, November 16th.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks for the
still like back in like around May. Time
it
went
feel,
by so fast.
well, and I think it's because a little bit because of what we're here to talk about. It's like the news, they're putting out so much more news to sort of continuously shock us and keep us on the defensive and keep us outraged and keep us and I think hopefully trying to piecemeal what they can out of things before they get kicked out of there. Did you see that thing of ProPublica came out about Christy No?
I think I did.
Yeah. She well, it's what we know. And it's actually kind of like a bummer on the ProPublica folks because there's a TikToker in Dakota Dunes, I think, in South Dakota who has been on Christy Nome's butt for a long time. And it's like all her reporting. She's been reporting, she's hooked up with that guy who's her chief of staff and that chief of staff's got a media company, and so they're paying themselves hundreds of millions of dollars to make commercials for ICE. She's paying her man, whatever. They're all swinging. Now I just assume they're all swinging.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, because there's a whole bunch of stuff about Christy Nome in the news.
Yeah,
Like which one?
yeah, yeah.
Which
She's
did I not hear?
well, they what they do is they fill the good news story. They generate a bunch of stuff that's good because a lot of the newspapers will just put out whatever because they're just one or two people in the newspapers. They don't have time to do reporting, and everyone's overwhelmed. So these small time newspapers will just throw out whatever Kristi Noem puts out, not checking nothing and just trusting her. And that's so they're all sort of complicit in their reporting, and that's I think what we're figuring out here is that there's a lot of different levels of, what one would call reporting. I think also that guy, Michael Wolff, who's right in the middle of the Epstein stuff,
Yeah.
he knows everything. Shit, he was advising Epstein about, national affairs. That is unethical as crap. And so, and then he was all get defensive. Don Lemon called him on it. Did you see that? Um, yeah, Don Lemon.
There's a Waj Hat. He's on Substack, and he's calling it that Michael Wolff guy out too. He's saying,
Mhm.
uh, like you're just saving all this information, you're hoarding it because you're going to write a book or you're trying to find a way to profit. And then at the same time, it shows that Michael Wolff is kind of involved in it too. And he's trying to, it's kind of like Chris Cuomo, right? When Chris Cuomo was trying to give advice to his brother on how to PR something,
Yeah,
the essays.
yeah, and there's no integrity anymore. And then I think right now with the situation with the um is not real owning everything that's coming out of our media, we shouldn't trust anything. We shouldn't trust anything. I think that it's just absolutely crazy. I was doing a show yesterday, my show, and I went to the AP. And, the AP used to be some kind of like respected news source. I went to the AP and there was like three, you know, um, uh, you know, real like positive looking pictures of Donald Trump, and there was like some stories about like stuff that he was doing. Nothing about the Epstein files. Him calling out Marjorie Taylor Greene. Him doing whatever. But like how ethical are these news places when they're just a keeping this guy in office, and they now we know that this is all since 2016. Right? He was probably, at Epstein's house for Thanksgiving. Probably, raping a girl for Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
The way they do.
And that's what it seems like, right? Like all these emails are just kind of coming out and you're oh, okay. Like that's just standard practice here amongst these people.
Yeah. And, what are the implications of Putin having a picture of this. And, I remember, I think maybe we talked about it, but, remember, when Trump went to Alaska, there was a meeting that happened where several of the press corps described Caroline Leavitt as shaken, several of them separately, and something really shook her there. Was it because Donnie J was on his knees for Putin, or what was it that was happening in that office? Because give me, oh my, like if this is what it's like, and Putin's got everyone, uh, you know, but also too, and I was thinking about this morning because I knew we were going to meet and visit. I was like, but none of this stuff is new. We've known since the very beginning, the very inception of this United States of America, that elite men were sending, poor men to do their bidding, and a lot of it has to do with, raping women and doing whatever. I was just listening to this book, Ancient World History, literally ancient world history. And one of the I think I was going to look at the title of it. One of the It's called The History of the Ancient World, and one of the things that they had to bring back were 20 beautiful women. Beautiful women have been the conquest, the spoils of these elite power brokers since the very beginning. um you know I've been in politics a long time, but I am not a cult member, and people are disgusting, and I will not. You have to have integrity.
I know I was thinking about all of this and I don't know. I think I'm just a weird thinker because I I thought about how it's all connected. And even like in our tribal governments, how that's even connected. And so you have people who don't even realize, like, oh, we got this funder, this backer to do this here for the tribe, and then you don't even know. But then it comes out, right? Like they're all connected to this whole stuff going on. And I don't know, like you have um you have them coming after the immigrants, um, the way they are. and making all of their accusations, but yet
It's
you
not
look at theirs, look at the elite, what they're doing.
right, but Maggie, it's not just the immigrants. They're taking the street folks, they're taking agitators, they're taking everyone.
Mhm.
A lot of people are ending up in those jails, and they're doing some very illegal things right now. And all of these guys are supporting this guy who's very criminal. And John Thune needs to resign. Mike Rounds needs to resign. Johnson needs to resign. All these guys have no, they all work for Kristi Noem. They all they all ride for that brand. They're all MAGA, right? And so if you're MAGA, you got something on your face. And ask Bill Clinton what it is. Who knows? But
Slick Willie, ask Slick Willie.
Yeah, well, we got and it's really good for us, I think, in Indian country. And I always see these as opportunities for us to expand our vision, to expand our understanding of what we can do, because now it really shows they don't care about us. And what we have to do is really, I think, take a look back, at our own people and say, okay, well, who amongst us are ready to build a new, to build anew. Because look, it's been 3 generations now. We've been sitting here in these prisons and these reservations, and we've been, assimilating and not. Some people are assimilating and some people are not. And what does assimilation mean? And I think it's time for us to have that real conversation. And are we, do we are we able to really call ourselves Lakota when we act with like Washichus, right? Because a lot of these IRA government people think they're in politics for power. I don't. I've known a lot of people in politics, and a lot of people get into it for power. They don't give a shit who's in charge as long as it's them, right? D's and R's, Democrats, Republicans, it's just a game for them. And people who want power, that's a game for them. That's what they do. So you can't, it's hard to really trust folks. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I think
it's
that's
tough.
true too. Um, one of the things that I find um is just like the level of distrust, mistrust in political people, whether you're tribal, whether you're state, federal, there's just a whole big level of it. And um I am hesitant. I mean, like I want to do it just because I want to be Chicha. I want to send some of those TikToks to some of my MAGA friends here in South Dakota. Like, what do you think about this? Like is this something you still support? And I was watching this one guy, I don't know what state he's from, but he just like turned on like he was a heavy MAGA supporter of Trump. And then now it's just like he's just like putting all these emails out there, and just the look of his face and like the like the sadness, like we put, and he's one of them, he says we put all our effort into him.
Well, but you know what? I don't care about those people, and I don't have no MAGA friends. I don't, and I've got 3 or 4 cousins that voted for MAGA, and I don't visit with them, I don't see them, and I pray for them because we knew about this guy since 2016, and we've known about this guy, and now thinking about the debate between Hillary and him now, it brings up a whole nother little line of what the hell, because either Bill didn't tell her or she's sitting there with that knowledge of what that man did, or Bill didn't tell her, and probably Bill didn't tell her. So I don't nothing against Hillary. Well, I mean, yeah, lots against Hillary. She was the butcher of Syria and all that, but Hillary and Obama and the Democratic Party are so complicit in Trump. Like the reason why we have Trump is because we have weak ass Democrats like let's talk about the shutdown, Schumer shutdown. Like now I call it the Schumer shutdown because he's a big, a big, a big, you know, uh, he had the people with him. And so who does it benefit more for us to get back to work? Does it benefit the Republicans? Does it benefit, who does it benefit? I think probably Israel. You know, they need to, things are falling apart here. They need they need to get us back to work so we're not paying attention to Israel. And, you know, the way the comments are and the social media, they can read the, you know, the writing on the wall too. And, you know, that's probably Schumer's like, you know, he said to those guys, you guys do it or else, you know, we're out of a job. Apex money's going somewhere else. And it's going, you know what, the good thing is that the younger folks understand APEC is you know, a front for, you know, genocide. And, you know, I think we need to expand it really because I would include you know, the enemy of the people is not only APEC, it's the fossil fuel, you know, the corporatocracy. You know, it's all of the corporations and the you know, John Trudell is like the gift that keeps on giving that dude. You know, I wish you know, he was alive in my lifetime. I wish I'd spent, you know, been more awake when he was alive because he said in one of his things, I always randomly, you know, hear his messages because the creator's got my algorithm right. Anyway, but he said something about how, you know, that we don't have to do a revolution in America because the corporations already did it. And he's right. You know, the corporations did it during, you know, during the Reagan administration, and it's been going since then. I mean, they took over the military industrial complexes in charge. We are, you know, not as important, right?
Right. I think there's a lot of different things, you know, like I've been this person that has, like, I'd say this, I'm always in the random place, right? Like I somehow end up being somewhere I shouldn't be, and then I witness it. And so so I witnessed some stuff about the GOP back in the early 2000s, middle 2000s, somewhere around that time. And one of the things that I witnessed was this conversation about it's in a meeting and they are planning on what they're doing on the internet. And so they're saying that they have to hire like basically bots. I mean, this is before the word bots is created and trolls. And so they have a whole slew of people that they have on payroll that go into Wikipedia and they're changing Wikipedia, they're reporting people, they're just constantly doing that. And so
Yep.
the narrative at the time that they were coming after was what do you call those, immunizations?
Yeah.
How they were influencing. So this is a long time ago, you know, 20 years now, of their influence of doing what they're doing on the internet. And so I'm trying to say that to people, but everyone just laughs me off. You know, I'm like, no, there's a whole group of people that are doing this. And so you got to be careful about what you're reading on the internet because there's people that are influencing what you're reading on the internet. Nobody wants to listen to me.
Well, and everyone is all saying it's China. You know, they all say so it's China. China's the enemy, China's the enemy, China's the enemy. The enemy is not China. China doesn't want to you know, monitor our heartbeats. And you know, these guys freaking want to do it that in here in America. That's what, you know, we're the thing that they're consuming, right? The data available to us through our phones and through our social media and all this stuff. That's the thing that's being eaten alive right now in America, and that's the biggest goal that they want. China doesn't care about that, but the corporatocracy, you know, cares so much about our consumption that you know, that's the only thing that matters. And then so I want to talk about that because I want to, you know, bring up for folks who are watching that there is going to be a blackout. There's a couple of different organizations working on an economic blackout over November 28th through the December 5th or December 1st or
25th. November 25th to December 2nd, I think it is. I think I have an image of it somewhere. We'll go ahead and talk about it. I'll search for the image.
Well, yeah, but just like, for our people, sure, we won't spend any money. We don't have any money. But for anyone listening and watching who have resources, shut things down. I think that, like, one of the only ways that we've ever gotten anything in this country is through people protesting, people dying, a lot of violence. And people think that revolution is supposed to be, violent. No, it's a cold revolution. It's happening. Slow revolutions happen every day. It's happening right now. We know that, because we've been the prisoners in this facade for a long time. And I think that now the rest of the public is now going to be, welcome to the reservation, right? Like, you guys are all being mined. You guys are all the consumers. No one cares about what you guys think. And now we're finding out that, colon cancer is on the rise because of the stuff that they're throwing into our food systems, because of what they're giving to our children. Like 30-year-olds are dying of colon rectal cancer, by huge numbers, because these guys are poisoning us. And like you said before, we've been saying these same things for 20 years. No one listens to us. But last week or so, I was in with my boss, and he was talking about how the tribe needs to get food sovereign. I'm like, right on, bro. I've been saying that same thing for the last 25, 30 years. I'm glad you're on board, because it's the only way we're going to be okay. And the truth of the matter is, it seems like we're on our own, and so we got to take care of ourselves. And so I think every tribe needs to be really having those conversations about food sovereignty and what that means. And I think it's, actually, like I said, a blessing in disguise. It's a blessing in disguise that folks have to go without SNAP, that folks have to understand that, um, uh, uh, this is something that could go away. It's a gift. It's a gift that happens to you, but because you're poor. But the real question is, why are 11 million people on SNAP? Why are, half of those people full-time workers, right? And those corporations that they're working at are making profits hand over fist, because we work for the rich, and we're just here.
I think it's real important too that when we think about like what it is our own power is, and having control over what you do. And so they recognize that this time of boycott and blackout is to not spend any money. And so like even my whole family, like my mom and all her sisters and all their kids and the grandkids, we usually have like a huge Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody comes and we play bingo and we do all these different things. That's what we do. But this year we're not doing it because my mom's the oldest one, and she's saying we're participating in this blackout boycott. And so she's encouraging everybody to just be home. And so they know that or what they also want to discourage is that everybody going and doing all their mad shopping on the 24th. They say to spread it out. So we've already, like my mom, she said, I bought the turkey, so we'll get the ham and whatever like that. And so but everybody just stay home. Like we all live right around each other, so we'll still just kind of come together and share a meal. But that's something that they encourage. And then they don't say on December 3rd, then go out and spend a whole bunch of money. And then they also recognize that people who cannot, there are people. And like for us on the reservation, we're really not very, because we're a small population. Like we're not really like we have to go work for the tribe. We got to go to the tribe because there's a service for people. We have to go to IHS. We got to go to work. So if we're IHS employees, we got to go to work because there's patients that are going to be coming in. Schools, you got to at least work on the 24th, like that.
Yeah, but for me, Maggie, I don't think our people have to worry about that economic boycott. You know why?
That's what I mean. That's what they're saying.
Already, like
that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
good.
but you can participate if you can. If you want to, you can. And so, like my family, we're going
Well,
to participate because we want to limit also. So we don't want to be traveling around, we don't want to be putting gas in. We don't, all these different things. So my family's trying to figure out a way in which we can participate.
well, we're not rich, but we are cultural, and thinker and thought leaders. So I hope that message gets out and more people and then your family does that because that's what we need to do. I know a lot of families who fast during Thanksgiving and don't celebrate those holidays. And more and more of the younger generation really are decolonizing their children. And so like I just want to give a shout out to all the younger folks because they're in the process of living that life that we wished we could when we were starting out, having that sense of identity, having grown up without, we were born while our religion was still illegal, right? We were born where when Bill Janklow was still cruising down the streets in Rosebud and doing all kinds of shenanigans, right? It's like right back to the core of the matter, like those kinds of Bill Janklow's, Donald Trump's, all of these kind of sicko weirdos living in the core of the power structure. Uh, Recycle. If it's not Donald Trump, it's going to be some other guy in the future. So, we can acquiesce to that future, to a future of forever being in this capitalist society and being poor. We can just give up. A lot of people do, and or we can do what's possible and start being ethical consumers and being ethical tribes. Like there's so many things that we could do as tribes that how many of our tribes have their banks and in ugly old pipeline building banks, a lot, who knows, like I mean how many people bank at those banks, like just those kinds of things, like we could come at this from a different way. It's impossible. Hey, I wanted to also talk about though, shout out to the folks in Brazil that raced into the cop. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I saw that. It's like, yeah, I was saying that too.
Yeah. And what a just a reminder for us guys too, the future, we are so far away from what they're experiencing and what we experienced once. We're sort of like a part of the engine that's driving the destruction that's happening there, and we're not even aware of it. And so I think that for us guys, like, to see that, yeah, we should be shutting stuff down. Yeah, we should be doing that stuff, but the truth of the matter is right now with the way the Trump administration is, if we tried to shut stuff down, we'd get arrested. And so all the options that are available to us now as people who want a different future is to build. Let's build some things. Let's build some things that's going to help our people become food sovereign. Let's build some relationships and some new healing pathways. I think that we need to start talking about our dependence on SNAP. I think that there was genuine fear amongst our people, and hey, they didn't have to be afraid. Not one of those guys. None of,
No,
they,
too, like the state of South Dakota. So I did this question before um the SNAP shutdown thing. So I asked, how is this shutdown going to affect SNAP benefits? And I was told that the state of South Dakota had enough money to pay for October, November, and December. They had enough money to cover it. But then because they needed to create this fear and whatever, then they had to then start saying, get in line with Trump and the fear and say, we're going to withhold it.
That's exactly right. And then that includes, these extra, I mean, these illegal shootings that they're doing in the Caribbean. I mean, they're fucking committing war crimes. and bragging about it. And Christian Zionists stealing money, and who else knows what's happening, giving money to Argentina. And Barron's got an Argentinian dancer boyfriend. It's like all this stuff. Is that why they got the 40 billion? I don't know. But who cares? I don't care if they're gay as me. I'm all for the gays. I love gay people. I'm gayer than hell. I'm queer from the get-go. But if you're, at one side, loving on men in the dark, and on the other side, punishing vulnerable trans folks, you're a piece of trash. And that's what's running our government. That's what's running these Republicans, these GOP people. They got no heart. And the Democrats are cowardly lions. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's just kind of, I think it's the standard that happens.
And like you said, it goes to our IRA governments too at the same time. Like, and not one of us, has been able to become successful, economically, because what happens is that a few people become successful economically. And these people then are like, oh, you poor people, I know I'm making $215,000 a year and I'm driving around a Lexus and all this other stuff, but I'm here for you poor people. And so and they don't even understand that that those people hear them and don't even hear them. Because they look at what you're driving, they look at how you're talking, they look at how your approach to things, and they, see you watch you. And that's true. And we have to have that as a reckoning within our IRA, governments. A lot of people act and think like Washichus, and a lot of people answer the phone like they're mad about doing their job. Shit, I go to work every day just happy to, work for my people. I'm a weirdo, I know, but I do. I'm so happy, so excited, and because this is it's like an honor for me. It's the first time I've ever been able to work for my tribe. But the thing about it is that what we have is so many wounded people that we don't have a lot of people with integrity working for our tribes. And integrity is a thing that our support system, these are the people that created us. They developed that in us. And if we don't get that developed in us, we're just like Washichus. And and that's the truth of the matter. And so we've got a lot of people who think like Washichus. But the thing about being indigenous is it's not hard. It's very easy, but you have to be consistent. It's very easy to be to think about people in a non-judgmental way. But it's very hard to think outside of this box that we're in. And so I don't know, I give up hope a lot, but then I always get a very inspired by future leaders. I've got young people around me, so they know way more than me. But I think it's poverty is a policy choice, and people who don't understand that do not understand a lot of other stuff. And so we shouldn't be communicating with them about about intricacies of sovereignty and all this stuff. Those people need to be they need to be cared for. We need to, half of our population needs to be cared for, and people don't understand that. And it's be and that's not their fault. It's because of the trauma, right? It's because of the trauma. 3 generations of generational poverty creates 3 generations of trauma. And so
I think that on reservations, what we need to do, like we have this big LandBack thing that's going on reservations. We need to do that in the sense of giving that land or putting people back on the land. And so you have your Teoshpai, you start restoring your Tiwahe and your Teoshpai system. And
that's
so
right.
so then you're able to grow your own food, do your own thing, and have your own self-sufficiency
Yeah.
instead of being in this situation that we're in, where we're living in cluster housing. I've been looking into like how do we as people become disconnected, and so it's because we're moving away from the land. That's how
Yeah.
we're becoming disconnected, is we're moving away from the land.
Well, and becoming assimilated, because when we assimilate into ideas of nuclear families um, that aren't natural. It's not natural for you to live in a mom and a dad and just two kids in a white picket fence. That is an idea that is not natural. It's natural for us to live in multi-generational, groups of people. We don't do that anymore. We think that people are a failure if they don't own a house. We think that people, all this stuff. And I think that, um, you know, acknowledging the truth that some people, aren't able to, uh, you know, distinguish between, what is systematic and what is personal in the healing, in their healing journeys. Like, some of these things they can't solve, right? But some of these things they can, they can create they can get sober, they can do, choose the, getting on a red road and doing all that stuff. And it's hard because, we know that, a lot of our cultural teachers and all that stuff, are kind of washichu with the knowledge and the thinkings. And so like, it's hard for people who really want to come back and be a part of the community because because that stuff is hoarded. And, it was hoarded for a reason, and it was good reason to hold on to it. But that reason is no longer, and it's time for us to really open up to each other and see each other as knowledge keepers and knowledge bearers and knowledge sharers. Because we just have, this one day that we have each day, and who knows if we're going to wake up the next day, you know what I mean? And so we got to, if we have something to share with the Oyate, share it. That's why every time I get asked to speak on anything, usually I only speak for, with you anymore. I don't do any media other than that. But, usually I will, because it's my, this is what I was put on earth to do, is to communicate. I was given speeches at 9 years old at tribal council. So my dad created this identity in me, and that's what, that you said, back to the land, but back to the gifts and to the things that our ancestors gave us. We have this ancestral knowledge in us. Sometimes I know stuff and I'm like, I never learned that. And where'd that come from? It comes from our ancestors. My I got a lot of half-breed trader trapper people in me. And so my ancestors have been negotiating, the systems, in between the systems for 3 centuries, literally, you know what I mean? And so like that kind of knowledge doesn't happen in the mainstream. And that kind of knowledge is why we have, ahead of the rest of the people in America right now. You know what I mean? Because our knowledge is available to our communities, and we're ready to share it. And so I think, as a whole, I just want to say that I feel very positive about stuff, even though I talk about all the negative stuff. Because I do feel like, this was needed. Trump was needed. And uh, the people needed to see themselves in him. And now they see themselves, in Bill.
Big beautiful Bill.
The big, beautiful Bill. Oh my God. It's like all the jokes write themselves, Maggie. It's hilarious. Oh man. And yeah, so I actually have a lot of hope in the serious MAGA folks. I hope that they're going to come back, around to a sane a situation where, they're not, you know,
I think it's really like around those ideas of, like, there's still people that are trying to frame these things within the Republican and the Democratic parties. So then you have the internal strife or the internal fighting within the parties over who's going to control the parties versus just throwing the parties out and changing the system, like how do we move forward? And
Well,
so they have like the examples of, what do they call that? Rank. I can never say the word.
ranked choice voting.
Yes, it never sounds right coming out of my mouth. Rank.
Yeah,
I
rank, and
always
that's
think
how,
of
yeah.
rank like as in, like on the res, we talk about something being just ranked.
Yeah, something stink, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, ranked choice voting. So that basically is you can vote for three or four people, no matter what party, whatever. And then you say, I like this guy best, but I like him second, I like them third, I like all that stuff. And then you have the runoff. Yeah, we need that. We need that. But what we need more than that, it's not even the voting. We need to get the corporations and lobbying out of the government. Nothing is going to change until we do that because right now we don't control the government. So they're not going to let us do anything. They're going to keep the parties in place. They're going to rotate the cast members. They're going to put a president, AOC, and they're going to make it feel like, like we've changed. And that'll be to our disservice. And so if that happens, and then we're in trouble. But I don't think it can happen actually, because I think the Democrats have done have made everyone just disgusted with them.
Yeah, I think so too. I
Mhm.
think there's, I mean, just along like the whole Schumer thing, oh, okay, Schumer, you failed at that. That was a big fail and it was a big sacrifice. Like the whole point of trying to control control a narrative or control a people. And so you put the fear in the people about, oh, well, we're not going to get we're not going to get EBT. And so then everybody's panicking, and that becomes the focus of whatever it is they're trying to do to save health care. I don't know. And then it just flops because they I don't know.
Well, what we need to do is we need Medicare for all. We need to get the lobbying out of the Congress, and we need to get, ethics in place. These guys are making money hand over fist on this. That's the other thing, is that both the Democrats and the Republicans trade in the stock market, and we're sitting down here fighting about, SNAP, and they're making millions and millions in dollars. John Thune started out as a staffer. Now he's a millionaire. He was a staffer. He was in
From Myrtle, South Dakota.
Pressler's office. He was a young kid. He started out as a staffer. So did Johnson. They figured out you can lie. You can manipulate. You can take money from whoever. It don't matter because the people don't pay attention. And now they're riding that DJT train. And I didn't say that on purpose, but they probably did. But who knows? I don't know. Dusty, he's probably anyway. Okay. I think it's corrupt, right? And so now we know. But what is it? Is it takes some serious people to make some changes, and I just don't feel like we have any serious people. And so that's why our tribes need to really seriously get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. At this point, I said this before, but like this is, we could go if we had some kind of vision, some speaking of some kind of leader who was talking about, vision. We could say, hey, put us into one tribe. Let's get rid of the BIA. Let us do all those things ourselves, and we'll distribute the how many millions of dollars that we get for all 7 tribes, or what have you, and we'll distribute that between ourselves. We'll create our own university system. I guess the Ogallala's kind of got it anyway. You guys are kind of the only, you guys are doing the thing, but we can educate ourselves. We can feed ourselves. We can protect ourselves. We don't have to be, worrying about that. I do think that the one general question is like what we talked about down with the indigenous folks on the Amazon. how much more can the earth take with all of this, this assault? It's not just America that's being assaulted, it's the world that's being assaulted, and it's not stopping, and it's it's going gangbusters. So I'm sure everyone in the world just like so anxious, and we're sitting over here looking at Bubba.
Yeah. Just changes everything. That changes everything. So
It
I
does.
think it's one of the other things about looking at, like, getting to the bottom of it, or looking at it and recognizing what has happened to Christianity in the United States. So Christianity moved to a white Christian nationalism, right? And then they created their own form of Christianity. So their form of Christianity is called Judeo-Christianity. And
Yeah.
so then it gives them the right to be nationalists. It gives them the right to have supremacy, because it's based off of whatever Israel helped them create. And
Yeah,
from Judah,
no.
then they created this whole new kind of religion. And so you ask white people, I mean, I don't know what's appropriate to say, but you can ask Washichu people, um, if Jesus was born in Palestine today, would they feed him? No. Would they, if Jesus came to the United States, would they allow him to live here as an immigrant? They say only if he has the right paperwork.
Yeah. Well,
So
you
people need
know,
to know that there's a difference between what has happened in Christianity. And so the evangelicals, this is what they are preaching about, is this Judeo-Christian. And Turning Point USA is a huge part of all of this, and January 6th and all. Charlie Kirk, man.
yeah, and it's interesting though because they're splitting. There's a split in the white supremacists, right? The Fuentes part is like who doesn't like Jews. The white supremacists who don't like the Jews, the Nazis, and then we got the Zionists. They're very the same. And well, then if you're the same as the Nazis, then like there's something wrong with you guys. But it's right. They've been thoroughly indoctrinated here in America, and so have our people. A lot of our people think about this the same. The first time we brought that Palestine resolution to tribe, one of the guys in there was like one of the tribal leaders here, who's a language speaker, said some things about how those Palestinian people were just opening casinos and drinking. And I was like, dude, do you even know Muslim people? No, you don't. But he's like, you know, thoroughly indoctrinated by what has happened. And you're right, like I was reading that in the 90s is when Netanyahu really sort of created these trusts, these relationships, and this is right when Bill is leading everything and getting Trump on his knees. So this is what's happening in the 90s. We have to look at it from the back, backwards. And so Israel, oh, I know, I'm sorry, but Israel is so he's manipulating all this stuff, and they're creating textbooks, they're creating a narrative, a white supremacist narrative that with a Christianity that is doubling down on the patriarchy, right? Like basically enslaving women again, and took away our right to health care. And this is just to create animosity within us. That's to make us riot and hate each other. And they, if we riot and hate each other, then they continue to make money and sell us product. And so anyway, let's back around to the boycott, remind everyone, and then I think I might have to dip out.
Yeah. So November 25th to December 2nd. So most reservation people probably are not needing to do this, but you urban Indians can participate. But they're doing
spread the word and spread the word and spread the word. I think
spread the word. Yep. So
yeah.
November 25th to December 2nd, they're doing a blackout protest. It's kind of framed as a protesting Donald Trump. So we want to hold on to our money as long as we can. We don't want to go anywhere. We don't want to go to any special events. We don't want to be doing anything big. We just want to stay home and hold on to our money as long as we can. This is, I think, their last effort to do this. And then the next one is going to be the general strike, where they're going to mobilize, and this is like the whole world. Everybody in the world is doing this. So wherever you are in your world or in the world, because that's a different kind of meaning, but wherever you are in the world, you can participate in doing this and trying to just hold on to your money. What is happening and why this time is because you have Thanksgiving. And then the day after Thanksgiving is Black Friday. And then the Monday after Thanksgiving is Cyber Monday.
Yep.
And so just trying to not do anything. The other thing is, beyond this, if you can, shop secondhand. We should always just try to go back to shopping secondhand, and then also buy if you have to buy your Christmas decorations or whatever, to try to do that secondhand or through yard selling or through a different mechanism versus going and giving money for brand new things. Or just don't buy anything and just use whatever you've had before if you're celebrating Christmas. And so those are the words to share and to participate. So there's many ways. So Chas says we could fast during this time as Lakota people. We could fast. What else can we do, Chas, as Lakota people?
Well, I don't know, but I know lots of people who fast, and I think that also, like, you could donate to stuff. I think that they do feeds and stuff in Rapid City a lot for the people along the creek, and around here there's always opportunities for us to get involved in those things. And I have noticed that it's happening. A lot of these buoys food, I saw that was feeding people, like everyone's feeding people because they realize everyone's hungry. And that's a great thing that at least our local businesses, even Taco John's was giving people free stuff here a little bit ago, and that's crazy because those guys are anyway. But like, I think that's cool that people are noticing it, and we can build a different economy. We don't have to be stuck in the ways that the way this is now, because the way it is now is pretty miserable. And so I hope that
another thing that we can be doing, right, is getting involved in our local, what would it be, like local politics in regards to changing the structure of homelessness. And so right now, Trump is implementing the change to low-income housing. And so now it's only going to be for transitional living. And so we have to be at our local political spaces to challenge that. Because then it doesn't solve anything. The issue is the cost of living. So how are we addressing the cost of living? Because you're going to do a transitional living plan for somebody who's just going to end up being homeless again, because they're going to have to go to treatment, is what he says. You have to go to treatment. So which means if you're if you're a sober person and you're living in low income, and you're working, you're going to have to go to treatment to continue to live there, which means you're going to have to take leave from work, which means then you're probably going to become unemployed. And so we have to counter those things, and we need to come together collectively to do that.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yep. Thank you, Chas. It's always a pleasure to have you. Join us again.
Okay, take care.
That was Chas Jewett. She is from Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation. I think we still say the word Sioux. But anyways, that's where she's from. And she does a lot of great things up there. Her and I met years ago on the activism trail as we were both doing work in regards to women's rights or the choice. And so that's how we met. And we've been friends since. And I really I enjoy her. I'm trying to figure out how to minimize, but I cannot minimize. Why can I not minimize? Exit full screen. That's what I needed to do. All right. So I'm trying to get to um 2 questions. We have yeah, reschedule to December 6th. I just have your cake and ice cream. Anyways, so we are up on our hour here, and we had so much to talk about, and we didn't really get to all of it. But hopefully we'll have Chaz on again. It's always good visiting. One of the things that is going on, I think that we need to be also paying attention to, not only to the housing situation, what is happening with housing and how that's going to transform things in housing, but also like what's going to happen to our healthcare. So what is going to happen to our healthcare? We don't know. We don't know. We know we have IHS to fall back on always, but we also know that there was, we did this whole movement to get people on, to open up the door to Medicaid. And so that's going to start closing, which then is going to go ahead and put us back into the situation with IHS, where IHS doesn't have the funding. And there's more of us that are going to be dependent on healthcare with limited dollars. And so I think it's really imperative that we work with our leaders, whether we like them or not, but try to get them to start advocating in a way in which it's going to do us better. I laid out this question. This is kind of something that just sits with me a little bit. So here in my community, Oblaya community, we have had water breaks for many years, years. And they recontracted out. They put a bid out to, and then they're putting in like these big rubber water pipelines because of the ground and how much it moves here, and it kept breaking the water line. But that really, I mean, yes, we're going to probably eventually have to replace, because you do have to replace all of that water line, because your pipeline is only going to last for X amount of, it has a certain lifetime limit, and so you're going to have to do that. But what gets me here is all these politicians were talking about how whenever the pipeline came in and how it was installed and who was getting away with things. So this was in the early 90s or late 90s, early 200s or 2000s. So that's what they're talking about, right? Like, so it's the same company. This is what I call tribal council people, and they just, I don't know, whatever me. But it's the same company that they on council floor were accusing of short ending us by not, because a lot of the pipeline were just placed on cinder blocks. They weren't placed on these, they're like U-shaped cinder things that kind of protect the pipeline better. They were just placed on cinder blocks. So then when that water first start going through, a lot of those, they moved, breaking the line. So then you have to go repair the line. So a lot of that stuff was happening. But it's the same company, the same construction company out of Martin that is doing this, the new rubber pipeline. And I'm like, how does that happen? Like, how did he get held accountable? And IHS goes ahead and just gives the bid back to this guy to lay down the new line. And I'm really thankful that we're getting, because we've had a lot of water breaks, and that does impact not just Oblaya community. It impacts, sometimes it can be impacting Rocky Ford, or it's impacting all up through Porcupine. And so a lot of people, like Evergreen Housing, is really affected by this. So that's my grumble, is that we are not, in the way that we do our things, is we're not, really, like, council is going to say one thing, but yet they don't say anything on this other end. And I called them and they're all like, we'll call you right back. Okay. Didn't I? Nobody called me back. But of course it could be because I'm Maggie. So they don't want to call me back. But anyways, I think it's really important too that we think about how we proceed forward in what we're doing and being collective and in those changes. I really think it's important that we provide opportunity to make change, but at the same time, I want to also think about, like, if we are collective people, what does that mean? If we're collective people, what does that mean? Does it really mean that we're out building these big elaborate things? Does it really mean that? Because if we think about being collective and thinking about how we were in the past and how we moved, our movement and the amount of respect that we had for the earth. And so how do we do that, and how do we live that way? But I also want to say that we should all be living on our land. People should be living on their land. That is how we survived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years together, is living on our land. And so, like, for me and my family, we live on our land. We don't have the most beautifulest homesteads or whatever. I have a secondhand trailer house that I live in. My brother has a secondhand trailer house that he lives in. My mom, bought her trailer house back in the 90s. And I think she said it took her 15 years to pay it off. And then my sister built her house like one board at a time. And so we all collectively live around. Oh, and my niece has a secondhand trailer. And so we all live around each other, and we try to share our meals as much as possible and come together and eat as much as possible. And that's what we should be trying to do. And I think like Pine Ridge kind of takes away from that, like maybe Eagle Butte takes away from that, because that's where the collective housing is. And so people go there to find housing and a place to live. And so it takes you away from your land. And so I think that's what we have to advocate for, getting back to the land. But anyways, you guys, 10:03. So you have a great rest of your week. I had a lot of other stuff to talk about. Wanted to give some Palestine updates and just some other things that are going on. But next time we'll do it. Toksa. Toksa next time. Hey, anyways.